Marhaba, my name is Megan and welcome to Wanderlust Voyages. We are here to tell you all about Morocco, from the culture to the cities to the cuisine. And today we have another Moroccan cooking lesson, I would say. We're going to go back to Morocco when I was there in February and learning how to make traditional dishes from my sisters-in-law. This time we're going to make Mescouta. Finally learned how to say it. And Mescouta is a type of Moroccan cake. It can also be made in a variety of ways. A lot of times when you look up a recipe for Mescouta, you'll find it as a yogurt cake. That's one way to make it. Or you can make it without the yogurt, or you can make it with orange, or any sort of varieties. It is a pretty light cake. It has a very nice crumb. It's very fine. And you want it to be very moist and very springy. And so to help make sure that we get it the right consistency, we really want to use pastry flour for this. All-purpose flour will work if you don't have any pastry flour, but to get a true Mescouta, you do want to make the effort to get pastry flour. So we're going to begin in Morocco with where I'm learning how to make it, and then we will come back to the US to see how well I learned. And this particular Mescouta, as I mentioned, is not a yogurt cake, but what they do is this one that they showed me, they then top with 2 different set layers. And so I'm going to try it following mostly as well as I can to what they did. However, I am going to make a couple little adjustments because we don't quite have the same flavors here. One of the things is you use a packet of flan powder. Well, I was able to find it here, but it's not flavored like it is in Morocco. So I'm going to add some more to try to get that same flavor. Also, it does include what we here in the US know as Dream Whip, which is a powder that you make whipped cream out of. Again, not something a lot of American cooks are too keen on, but again, to keep it authentic to what they did, I'm going to do that. Also because we need a stabilized whipped cream to decorate. And how I usually make a stabilized whipped cream, I use gelatin. Well, gelatin is not used in Morocco because it is not halal. And so therefore, to skip having to figure out how to make a halal stabilized whipped cream, we're just going to do this for now. I think I'll tinker with it a little bit and try to get it completely away from box mixes. And I'll do that when we are for our cookbook that we're working on. So be sure to see it then. But let's head to Morocco and see how they did, and then we'll come back here to the US, see how I do. So I am still here in Morocco, and my sister-in-law Naima is going to show us how to make a Moroccan cake. And because I keep forgetting the name of it, I'm going to have Mohammed tell us what it is.
It's called the Mescouta.
Mescouta.
Yes.
Okay. So, Naima, what do we have for ingredients?
هذه الزبدة كدهنها.
Some butter.
So just enough to butter the pan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does it have to be in a springform pan, or can it be in any kind of pan?
It's the same.
Any kind of pan?
Yes.
Okay. So butter it, and it looks like it will be floured as well?
Yeah. Yeah, flour.
Yes. Yes. This is something I'm really bad about remembering to do with my cakes.
Yeah.
But it always helps them come out better. All right. And I know they put a pinch of salt in the bowl already.
بلات
Salt.
نقدم لك الزيت
Oil. And so that's about 25 centiliters.
طحين
Flour. How much is that?
شحال؟
كاس العنبة
الطحين.
100 غرام 100 غرام
100 gram.
100 grams of flour. And again, it's the pastry flour because this is a cake.
100 غرام سنيدة
100 of sugar.
And this is granulated sugar this time,
Yeah.
not powdered. Okay.
Yes.
جوج
2 packets. And how much is in each one?
It's
8 grams.
8 grams.
Okay.
8 غرام
So 16 grams of baking powder.
يبقى 16 غرام
Yeah, so
5 البيضات
5.
5 eggs.
صح.
Wonderful.
بسم الله.
بسم الله.
So we start with the eggs in the bowl. And of course, if you ever drop a piece of shell in, you should always use another shell to get it out. If you try to use your fingers or a spoon, you'll just chase it around. And you'll want to beat the eggs. So beat them until they're foamy and then add in half the sugar. Beat to incorporate and add in the rest. Then we're going to add in oil. Okay, now that all of our eggs and sugar and oil are well combined, we're going to add the baking powder. And then the flour. And of course, a lot of Moroccan women don't exactly follow recipes. They make these things so often they know exactly what they're doing, and they go more by feel and sight. So since this batter is apparently looking a little bit thin, we're going to add a little bit more flour. Okay, it looks like that must be better. It looks like it's more of thick ribbons coming off of the beaters as opposed to being runny. So it looks like she added maybe another quarter of a cup.
Yeah. دابا تحطها في هذا.
And of course, anytime you are making a cake batter, you always want to be sure to finish it by hand so that there isn't any pockets of flour that got missed by the beaters.
انتما تشوفوا
زوين.
زعما باش يشوفوا بحال العجينة.
You like it like the tea. This one. Like the tea.
Okay, so you pour it from up high, much like tea, to keep it light and airy, I presume. Just like you pour tea from on high to aerate it.
داك الطرابة نجا ريتي.
And how long is this going to bake?
شحال الوقت خاصها؟
20 دقيقة.
20 minutes.
About 20 minutes. And of course, if you use a smaller pan, you'll need a little bit longer. If you have a larger pan, a little bit less time.
داكشي عارفين ندير فيه داكشي.
All right, so we'll be going to the oven and we'll see you in about 20 minutes to check on the cake.
صافي يلاه نديرو.
Okay, so our cake has now come out of the oven. It is golden brown, and now Ilham is going to talk to us about how we make the other layers. So what do we need for that?
We need a cornstarch powder, 2 big spoon of that, and 1 liter of milk, sugar to taste. Just
Okay, excellent. And when you, for your taste, how much sugar do you usually use?
3 spoon or 4 spoon.
Okay.
بزاف هادشي بان
تبارك الله.
ليا بزاف خلاص.
شي فيه الحق شي كاش.
So we actually want about 2 cups of milk, like half a liter.
غير جوج.
And so this is going to be a sort of milk pudding layer, correct? And when you cook it, do you cook it over what kind of heat? High, low, medium?
لا عافية كيفاش كتكون؟
ليلة later.
Low?
لا وين؟
low.
Okay. And then how long do you cook it for?
شحال الوقت؟
بعد دقائق 5 minutes.
Okay. And keep stirring it while it cooks?
داكور ان شاء الله.
All right, excellent. We'll see you in just a moment after it cooks.
Okay.
Okay, so the milk mixture has cooked and you can see it has thickened to maybe like a very thick cream. And so it just gets poured over the top. This is why we want to use a springform pan. It's going to allow you to add these extra layers and still get it out easily. And now we refrigerate this until set.
Okay.
All right, excellent. We'll see you in a while, given how much steam is on that. Okay, now to prepare the third layer.
Okay.
How do we do that?
We need 3 danone
Cups of yogurt.
ديال
It's a little bit thinner. What flavor is the yogurt?
Hmm?
Do you know what flavor the
Flavor?
yogurt is? Yeah, is it strawberry or?
Strawberry, yes.
Okay. Things that are pink usually are.
Mhm.
And again, sugar to taste.
Yeah. One.
Which in this case is about 3 large spoons.
One. One.
Okay. Okay, so flan, that, and what looks like for 4 servings. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if we have that in the US. We might. And of course, you can make this with whatever flavorings you would like. This one just happens to be strawberry. And then it gets cooked the same way as the other one?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we'll be back when that is cooked and ready to go on the cake.
Okay, see you later.
Okay, our first layer is set. And again, we have the strawberry layer thickened kind of to the consistency of melted ice cream. And we pour it over just like before. And this will go back into the refrigerator for it to set before we decorate it and enjoy. All right, back to the fridge. Okay, so to decorate it, what are you using?
The creme fraiche.
Okay, so if that is not something you can find in the US, you can of course make it yourself.
And milk.
Okay.
Milk.
So 3 heaping spoons, not the entire package. Okay. All right, looks like we have stiff peaks. Perfect for decorating the top of the cake.
Yes. Sneed kick.
course, the moment of truth when we remove the ring.
Wow.
Wow. And there we have a beautiful 3-layer Mescouta. I remembered. All right. So, torta. All right. So we will see if I can do just as good of a job as everyone here when I try this back in the US. And of course, this is a wonderful cake for any time. It doesn't have to be for a special celebration, just with a wonderful glass of Moroccan tea. Okay, so let's give this a shot. We need, of course, the 5 eggs. Now, I went by approximating the volume of that cup they were using, and we're going to need about 1.5 to 2 cups of pastry flour. I will measure it as I go and just look for that same consistency that Naima had. We're going to need about 3/4 cup of sugar, 1 cup of oil, and something that Nisa told me to add that Naima did not was about 1/2 teaspoon of vinegar. So we will begin. Oh, and we have our pans that are greased and floured. Now, because I have a much smaller springform pan than they did, what I'm going to do is actually divide the batter with just a bundt pan, because it is also a wonderful snacking cake with nothing on it. So we will begin with our eggs. And we're going to beat this just until they're foamy. And then we will begin to add in the sugar until it is thick and pale. Okay, it's well mixed. We're beginning to get some bubbles in there, so we're going to add in our sugar. I'll do it the same way Naima did, about half, mix that in, and then the other. Okay, it is not quite as pale, but all of our sugar is dissolved, so we're going to call that good. Now we're going to add in our oil and our vinegar. And I will be right back because I realized I forgot our baking powder, crucial element. Looks like our oil and egg are well combined, and now our baking powder, about 2 teaspoons. Each of those packets is about a teaspoon. That would have been a terrible cake if I had forgotten that. All right, we're going to start with 1 cup of flour and see where that gets our batter. 2. All right, that is looking like it's very runny still. So we're going to add another 1/2 cup. That looks like the thick ribbons that Naima was going for. So 1.5 cups of pastry flour. All right, since she beat it quite a bit, I'm going to let it beat for a little bit, see if we can get some air in that, because I do believe that's an important part of this. That is why also you're supposed to pour it into the pan from high up. So we'll give that just maybe 2 minutes to try to get some air in here. All right, our batter is nice and smooth. We have some air bubbles in there. And I'm just going to do carefully folding to make sure that I don't have any stray bits of flour, which I shouldn't because we started with our wet ingredients, but nothing's more disappointing than cutting into your cake and hitting a chunk of flour. All right, so we're going to put 1/2 of it in our pan, and I was told it's very important to hold the bowl up. That is about 1/2 of our batter. Remember, we want to leave plenty of room because this is going to rise, and then we're going to put 2 more layers, build 2 more layers on top of it in this pan. So we don't want to overfill it. So let me put the other 1/2 in this bundt pan. I feel like this one is testing my hand-eye coordination to make sure I get it evenly distributed and not right in that hole in the center. Oops, almost did. Okay, see if I can clear that off. And just give it a couple taps to let it distribute. Now we're going to bake these for, they said about 20 minutes, so I'm going to give it a check at about 15. We'll see you back here then. Okay, our cake has come out. It is nice and golden, and so we're going to let that cool for a bit. And in the meantime, we are going to make our first topping. So I'm very sorry to Ilham. I am going to adjust your recipe just a little bit. So I'm going to use 1 cup of whole milk and 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, just to give it a richer, more creamy flavor. And I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of orange blossom water, just to give it a little something. And we have our 1/4 cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So now that we have all of that in a pot, we're going to cook it over medium heat until it is thickened. And whisk it together to make sure that everything gets well incorporated. So this is going to take maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and we're going to be looking for a consistency of maybe a little bit thicker than melted ice cream. Okay, I'm going to turn off the heat just because this pan holds a lot of residual heat and I don't want to burn it. Okay, so we're at about the consistency of a not set pudding. So we will put the ring back on the cake and pour this over top. And just give it a little swirl. You want it to be evenly distributed. Now we're going to transfer this to the refrigerator, let it set, and then we will make our third layer. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay, our milk cream layer is almost finished. So now I'm going to get the strawberry layer. So in the pan, I have 1.5 cups of strawberry kefir. Now I know that Ilham had used, she said just yogurt, but the particular kind of yogurt she was using is a little bit different. And the kefir is going to be what's most like the consistency of that yogurt. However, because the kefir does not have as much strawberry flavor, I have pureed frozen strawberries. So we have about 1 cup of that we will add. And then again, 1/4 cup of sugar. Now to get this layer to set, we're going to use flan. In this case, it's called creme caramel, but it's the same thing. So this is Dr. Oetker. You can also find it from Goya. Just be sure to look. If you don't see it by like the puddings and such, then check over in the foreign food aisle. So we don't need our caramel sauce. We just need this powder. And just like before, we're going to whisk it and let it cook until the consistency of a not quite set pudding. You can see that it is mostly firm and set. It can probably use a little bit longer, but what we really care about is it being firm enough so that the layers are not going to mix. So I'm going to now remove from the heat and pour this over our cake to make our third layer. This is definitely a bit runny, but the package says it will not thicken, so we're going to trust that. We're going to put this back in the refrigerator, let it set, and we'll be back later once it is fully set to decorate and have the final reveal. And actually, I see a few little bubbles in here. I don't want that. So I'm just going to go in with my whisk and try to pop those. We want a nice, solid, even top. And of course, because I used the thawed strawberries pureed, if you want to make sure you don't have any seeds in, be sure to strain it. I don't really care about seeds, so we just used as is. All right, there you are. We'll be back in a bit. Okay, as our final layer is getting ready to set, I am going to make the topping. So Dream Whip It is their equivalent of the package that they had. Of course, you can always make your own stabilized whipped cream, and I probably will play around how to do that later. But for right now, I am following their recipe. So 1 packet of Dream Whip, 1/2 cup of cold milk. And we're just gonna whip this up. All right, we have stiff peaks. So now we're going to transfer it to a piping bag and decorate our cake. So a quick note about that 3rd and final layer. It turns out that whether it is the type of boxed flan we have here in the US, or because of the kefir, or because I added extra strawberries, I don't know. However, it did not set. But because our cream layer had been so beautifully set, I was able to pour it off into a pan. I added 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, just like the cream layer, and cooked it once again. So that should be all set now. So we have our whipped topping in our pastry bag. If you've never had Dream Whip, it does have a different flavor than regular whipped cream. It is much more like Cool Whip. It tastes lighter. All right, let me go get the cake. All right, here we are. You can see it is now set. So we're just going to decorate it with some rosettes around, little flowers around the edge. Okay, I think that's enough. We should stop there. All right, now for the moment of truth. Let's take off the ring. Oh, before we do, let's add some sprinkles. They don't stand out quite as much as Ilham's black sesame seed sprinkles, but unfortunately, this is what I have. All right, now for the moment of truth. Da, 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 da. Woo! Look at that. It worked. It is beautiful. And I will cut into it in just a little bit and show you a lovely picture, but you can see already the layers. They look much neater from the inside. So that is how you make a 3-layered Mescouta. I hope you enjoy, and bon appetit. And there you have it. You can see the layers, the wonderful sponge Mescouta on the bottom,